Free Japan Channel number 162. Today, January 8th, Thursday, 2026. This is the first broadcasting of FJC in 2026. A Happy New Year! And how are you doing, dear listeners? Today's topic is, of course, US attack on Venezuela. The year 2026 started with the assault on Venezuela by US force. This task force approached the coast of Venezuela at midnight, and then helicopter flew to the palace where previous President Maduro was living, and they raided the palace and arrested Maduro and his wife, bringing them to the United States. These two people, Maduro and his wife, will be sentenced in the US court from now on. This is none other than the infringement of the sovereignty of Venezuela, don't you think so? US abducted the president by force, bringing him with his wife to New York City, and then United States will give some trial to these two people. And in Venezuela, the vice president is now declaring that she, so a female politician, would be the temporary president of Venezuela. At first, this female vice president condemned the United States for this attack. However, she may have been persuaded by the US agent. She changed her opinion drastically, and now she's saying that she would collaborate with Trump administration and want to make new Venezuela with the help of United States. Many people would remember that the start of Ukraine war was also this way. Russia suddenly encroached Ukrainian territory in 2022, so 4 years ago. What the United States did this time is the same as Russian special military operation of 4 years ago. Both countries, Russia and the United States, are the example of superpowers. Therefore, they can override international law. Of course, from the left wing in many countries, there are some voices that the United States is violating international law. Of course it is. The United States is violating international law, needless to say. However, as I said, Russia and the United States, these superpowers unfortunately, can override the international law. Therefore, nobody can sanction them. Nobody. Therefore, Russia and the United States have nothing to fear when it comes to infringement of international law. They can do whatever they can. This is a bare politics of the world. Even in 21st century, 2026, the global affairs are now controlled by this principle of bare will of superpowers. When Russia or the United States do what they really want, nobody can stop them from doing so. Superpowers are now Russia and United States. Only these countries. China isn't. Of course, Japan isn't. The definition of superpowers is here that they can provide food, energy, and military facilities on their own. China can't. Other countries, of course not. Relatively speaking, the status of President Putin in Russia is now escalating because Putin can now say that, the United States, the Americans are also doing the same thing as we did in Ukraine. Nobody can refute Putin when he says something like that. Now, we have to admit that nobody can stop United States and Russia from doing what they really want to do. This is global politics. Of course, there are so many pretexts that President Trump remarks in this event. He says that Venezuelan people are very happy now with this US assault, and they will prosper thanks to this assault because the refinery facilities of Venezuela is so old-fashioned that it cannot function properly. Then US large oil companies will invest maybe $110 billion. Wow, $110 billion US dollars. This is an investment from large US oil companies, and then 3 million barrels per day of oil will come from Venezuelan soil. Of course, this profit will also permeate among Venezuelan people. This is the argument of President Trump. Similar argument could be found in Putin's remark of 4 years ago. Putin also said that denazification, therefore, Putin wants to annihilate the Nazi faction in Ukraine. And this faction, Nazi faction in Ukraine, plague not only Russia, but also Ukrainian people themselves. Therefore, Putin was reiterating that he would emancipate Ukrainian people by this special military operation. In this way, anything can be said by superpowers. They can say anything about the justification of their actions. How will this US assault on Venezuela unfold from now on? Global people are now paying attention to it. Of course, Free Japan Channel will also gather information about it.